Another edition of Haas Talks, and joining me in the studio this week, Rodney Timms. Rodney, thanks for taking time out of your week to join me here.
Pleasure to be here, Hoss. Thanks for inviting me.
And we talk about all the time, race fans and just racers in general, and the name Timms has got to be kind of, my people probably know that by Ryan, but you've been around racing a long time, been going to watch races. We talked about Lawton back in the Lanny Edwards days.
Yep, back in high school, my dad had a garage and salvage in Chattanooga, Oklahoma, and we went to the races frequently because he sponsored a car there. So I've been wanting to race for many years and never got that opportunity, but we got a chance after getting in the trucking business to let Randy start racing, and that's where we started.
And you guys got started running, what was it, State Fair Speedway, Lawton, a little mix of everything.
Factory stocks.
Factory stocks. I remember that. So I remember whenever you had the pro stock and he had the big bullseyes on the car.
Yeah.
Because he kept on getting taken out and kept on getting ran over all the time.
Right. They have a way of inaugurating you when you're a rookie in those series, and so we just put a bullseye on there because everybody was hitting him.
Everybody was already aiming for him. And,
yeah.
And so through the years, you guys, like you said, you have a trucking company, Western Flyer Express. I mean, it's huge.
Yes.
It hasn't always been huge. It's taken a lot of work to get there.
Yes, absolutely. A lot of work and a lot of hours and
a lot of sacrifices.
People think that, oftentimes they say, well, y'all always had money. No, that's not the case. When we first started that trucking business, I remember Randy had a couple of four-wheelers. We sold them and then went and borrowed money from a relative just to get started. And we bought a customer list and 2 trailers, and that's how we started.
So it wasn't always easy, and it just hadn't been handed to you.
Absolutely not.
And still now today, even though you guys are growing like a wildfire right now, you're still heavily involved in the business of making it happen. I mean, both of you and Randy are in the office usually daily and taking care of the business.
Exactly.
So you get involved with the racing there at State Fair Speedway, and a name that I just got done recently. I did an interview with Trey Robb, and you gave Trey Robb his first sprint car ride.
Right.
Talk to me about that and how you got involved with Trey and what made you want to do that.
Well, Randy and Perry Robb Jr. raced together all the time, and of course Perry Sr. and I and our wives became good friends, and we got to talking about him, and as he progressed, 11, 12 on up there, he seemed to really have the talent. So we decided that we'd chip in, get him his first sprint car ride, and take it from there. And
with that ride, with your help and everything, he became the youngest winning feature winner at State Fair Speedway. Has since went and did a lot of great things. One of the memories that I have is the T-shirts, the T-shirts that you had made with his picture on the back. Those were pretty epic.
Yeah, it said Ice Tray.
Yeah, Ice Tray.
Because he was always so cool, calm, and collective, and he was just a kid. And it reminds me a lot of my own grandson, Ryan, which Ryan, I've always called him Flyer. When he was born, I told his daddy we're going to have to call him Flying Ryan.
And it stuck like glue.
The day he was born in the hospital, I told him that, and it stuck with him, and I just call him Flyer. And I was telling him the other night, I said, that's just a me and you thing, and he said, I like it.
I like it. That's great. So moving on into Ryan's career, it's always been about kids.
Yes.
And a lot of people, some people know your story, a lot of people don't. But you suffered from child abuse.
Yes, I did, very greatly. My dad was pretty hard on me, and I suffered it for, a good part of 12 years before I left home. And right before I left home, he actually tried to beat me to death. And I still have some scars from that night. But it was on the side of a highway in southwestern Oklahoma at like 9 o'clock at night. And not one car ever came by or down that highway, and it went on for an hour and a half. He beat me so bad my eyes swelled shut, and I'm throwing up blood, and they never took me to the hospital. And he was working in Weatherford at the time for a trucking company, and we went on up there. My mother and sisters had a front row seat to watch this, and they were scared beyond belief. But we got up there. He was standing in a trailer house with another man, and I could hear him and my mother talking. Well, we can't take him in there because they didn't want that other guy to see what he'd done to me. So they covered me up with a tarp. In the back of the pickup, and that's where I spent the night. Well, the next day when we got home, my mother sent my sisters in to get a quilt, and they draped it over me. And because they didn't want the neighbors to see it, my sisters led me into the house, and that's where I stayed for the next 2 weeks.
From that moment forward, I mean, that's life changing. I mean, how did you, how do you pick yourself up from that? I mean, being a kid, how do you pick yourself up from that and force yourself to move on? I mean, what comes next? I mean, what's going through your mind as a kid? I mean,
well, after that happened, I lost my will. I didn't have a desire to do anything. I really didn't want to go on living. Then I had to deal with wanting to commit suicide. And then I went through that phase of wanting to kill him. And I decided after that night that if he ever touched me again, I'd have to kill him, because I couldn't keep. And people ask me all the time, what was the worst part about it? The pain from being beat on all the time will drive you absolutely crazy. It's unreal. People don't realize how bad it is unless you've been there. But from that point, I left home and at the age of 16 got married, and Randy was born a few months later, and the rest is history. But, I had lots of struggles. It caused me to get in lots of fights because I was automatic. Somebody got around me, I thought threatened me, I take them down before I get took down again, because it was just in my subconscious mind, I'm going to get killed if I don't.
You build up a wall and you just automatically have that defense always ready to go.
Right.
But that moment, as much as I hate to sound, hypocritical or whatever you want to call it, that moment changed you forever and made you the man that you are today, the dad that you are today. You've gone on to do some amazing things in not only writing books, but to become an advocate for these kids and doing a lot of great things. And I remember back whenever Trey raced for you in the modifieds and stuff like that, you had Child Help USA, and they helped you out and spread the word. And now you've come up with this new organization, as we see it on the screen here, All Truckers Together Against Child Abuse. Tell me about that, and tell me just the process that you're going through, your mindset whenever you're like, I've got to do this.
Well, the fact remains I have to do it, because when I see it, cases of it show up on the news, it just rips my heart out. I know what those kids feel like that are being abused, and I can't just sit by and not do anything. I mean, I was rough and tough for many, many years, but I always had God on my side, and I believe that he helped me get through all this. And I give you an example of what people take for granted. By the time I was 17 years old, I wanted to kill somebody. And people tell me all the time, well, don't tell people that, it scares them. Well, it ought to scare them, because we're creating what I refer to in my book, Contract Killer, as homemade killers. We're creating them in our homes by beating kids. It will drive them to kill.
And a lot of the things that people don't realize, the statistics. You look at the numbers of serial killers. We've talked about this, you and I, just, in passing, and whenever you come up and visit me, just the numbers from how many serial killers were abused as children.
100%. And 80% of the murders in this country were committed by people that were abused, and it starts with their children. And people say, well, they're kids, they'll get over it. No, they all carry it into adulthood in some form or fashion, and therein lies the problem. It's the number one cause of divorce. The majority of our homeless were abused. Majority of the people in prison were abused. It's the number one cause for drug abuse, alcoholism. I mean, it goes on and on and on. It's escalated our health care prices, because all those people have more serious health issues than the normal person. And it's escalated into like $585 billion it costs companies every 5 years to deal with the problems with the people that have been abused. I mean, they can't get along with people, and they miss work all the time. And I'll give you an example. This lady was a national Michelin tire rep, was in my office. This is probably 10 years ago. I'd written my first book, and it was poetry. It's called Calling All Hearts. And she said, why do you write that stuff? Why don't you just move on? And she'd been abused. I said, well, how do you deal with yours? She said, well, To be honest, sometimes I can't get out of bed for a week at a time. I said, I understand that. Many a time I wanted to stay in bed because I couldn't face the world. It was just too tough. But I have a wife and kids, and I couldn't stay there. I had to move on. So I write it, and by writing it, it helps me get past it.
So now you've started this amazing organization. It's fairly new still. You know, it's still in the beginning stages. What are some of the things that your organization, that you guys are doing to try and bring awareness, to try and raise awareness?
Well, the main thing is we're going to put billboards across America to show people how bad it is, because the mainstream media is not going to tell you that we lose over 1,800 kids every year to child abuse. And to me, there's no reason in the world for that.
It's not excusable at all.
They won't tell you those things, and we're going to put them on billboards across America so people realize how bad it really is. I mean, nobody knows that 80% of the murders in this country were committed by those abused. It's a fact. Nobody knows because the mainstream media is not going to put it out there.
It's not in their plan. It's not in their wheelhouse.
They call it our nation's shame, and I refer to it as the cancer of our country because it's eating us up from within. It's destroying the seeds that are planted to be the next leaders.
And that's the big thing right there, is that it starts from that seed, from that original standpoint.
Right.
And if we don't stop it now, it's just going to continue to get worse. I mean, those numbers are just staggering. Whenever you think about the overall world, I mean, just everything in general, the numbers are absolutely astounding. Putting up billboards across the nation, that's a pretty big cost. I mean, that's not cheap. I mean, the average billboard going up and down the highway is not an inexpensive deal. I mean, you've got what, a couple $100,000 for a year?
It costs a lot of money, but I'll go back to a story. 2 years ago, my wife and I were in Times Square in New York City. And as I stood there and looked around all those electronic billboards, I looked straight up, and there is a fixed billboard, and it's got a goat on it. And beside that goat, it says, "We need love too." So that just went through me like a knife. We can protect our animals more than we protect our kids. So when I got home, I called that billboard company and asked them what it costs for a charity rate to put that billboard up there. And it's $300,000 a year for that one billboard in Times Square. And I thought, those people are raising millions to protect our animals. And let me tell you something else very shocking. We didn't have child abuse protection laws until 1974. I was 21 years old. We had animal abuse laws passed in 1876. So we've been protecting our animals 100 years before we started protecting our kids. In fact, the very first people that got prosecuted for child abuse, they had to use the animal abuse laws to prosecute them. Now, to me, that's sad.
That's beyond sad. And people don't realize that. People don't know it.
They don't know it because nobody's going to put it out there. My job, I feel like, is to get it out there for people to see.
And that's the main reason why I wanted you to sit down here with me. I mean, you guys have done a lot. I mean, we go to any racetrack throughout the Midwest right now, and you can see the Attica signs. You can see the T-bone signs that you guys have made up, and I mean that's a small part, and that's just a small. You think about racing as a realm. I mean, grassroots racing. I mean, you got small groups and pockets of everywhere. We need to kind of connect the dots, and that's what all Truckers Together Against Child Abuse is really about, is connecting the dots and using your platform of having a trucking company, being able to put that decal on. How many trailers you guys got now? Almost 1,000?
2,200.
2,200? Right. So I was off by 1,000. Wow. You guys are growing.
Right.
But still, 1,000 trailers up and down the highway in correlation to the numbers of children that are abused daily it's not even close. I mean, there's no even comparison.
There's an incident of child abuse every 10 seconds in this country. There's over 6 million cases reported every year, and I'm not saying every one of those get investigated or whatever. That's just reported. And they know that there's that many or more that's not being reported. And I sat down and did the numbers one time, and these kids carry it into adulthood. Say there's 10 million cases every year, and you add that up year after year after year till you get to the point that probably 50% of the population has dealt with some type of abuse.
Wow.
Staggering.
I mean, for me, I'm a guy that's supposed to know how to talk and be able to listen and come up with the follow-up questions and keep things rolling, but that just takes your breath away.
It does. It really does.
Whenever you think, and especially for us here at Port City Raceway, we're heavily involved with the kids. You know, this is the future of our sport, and whenever you say those numbers like that, and I just think, and then look at the kids that we have coming through here that race on a weekly basis. You know, kids that are becoming, in the racing world, they become our family more so than our original family, because we typically see them more than we're able to see, like my nieces and nephews that live in Oklahoma City. I don't get to see them a lot because I'm involved here at the racetrack. So these kids here, I believe and solely believe that, you know, those become my nieces and nephews. Those are my kids out there.
Exactly, their family. And, you know, that's one of the things that Mike told me a year ago when I was talking to him about doing something with the racetrack. I said, Mike, why did you open this racetrack back up? And he told me, he said, I got to tell you, the reason I did it is I want to give kids a choice to do something fun and not have to do drugs or whatever else they find on the streets. They can come to this racetrack and have a good life, enjoy themselves.
All Truckers Together Against Child Abuse. It's based right now, it's a lot of your personal money that's coming out and going into it.
Oh, exactly. It's hard to raise money for any organization. But I'm trying to unite the trucking industry to take a stand and say, okay, truck drivers get a bad rap a lot of the times, and there's a lot of good truck driving people out there. And I want them to take a stand with me to show the American people that we care about these kids.
And it's not just truckers that are joining and applying their monthly or yearly membership money to it. It's not just for truckers. It's for everybody.
It's for anybody that wants to join and help us. And it's only $25 a year. That's $2 a month, basically. That's
beyond affordable.
Yes.
But whenever you take a step back again and you look at the big picture, $25 a year, I mean, there's people out there paying more than that in a month for a subscription to watch a TV show.
Exactly. And that being said, back to racing, my grandson Ryan, I call him Flyer, of course. I told him when he autographs my pictures for me, because I got my garage lined with pictures, I said, sign them Ryan Timms, but AKA Flyer. He loved that. But he's made a video with me for the racing community and the truck driving community to join. And I encourage everybody to go to attica.org to join and maybe see what we're doing and how we're doing it. There's a truck driving scene when you open up the website, and that's actually me driving the truck. But
and that's a trailer that you've had wrapped that you take to various events across the country.
Exactly. It has Attica on it.
There's a lot of people that have given you their support and their testimonials. I actually went to the website and looked and and did a little bit of research. There's a lot of not only government officials, but people in the racing world that have given their stamp of approval. I know that Chuck from the Street Outlaws, he's a strong supporter of it.
He made a video for us, as a matter of fact.
And there's so much that people can do that takes a little bit of time. It takes, 2 seconds to share a post?
Yeah, and it don't take no time at all. And that being said, as far as racing, Emmett Hahn has told us that we can put our stuff in the shootout and the Chili Bowl.
So that's huge.
Yes, that's huge.
Just the organization is starting to grow more and more. That you've taken the time to kind of reach out. Now we see T-Bone. T-Bone's kind of your the mascot for All Truckers Together Against Child Abuse. Why T-Bone? Why the dog? Tell me the story behind that.
T-Bone was my dog as a kid when I was getting abused. And he and I used to go into the house, and he'd sit in my lap. And my dad beat on him, too. And he'd sit in my lap and whimper, and I'd be sitting there holding him crying. And we got to be pretty good buds. And about 3 years later from when I got him, my dad went after me one night, and he went after my dad. and he disappeared the next day. I assume my dad took him off, killed him, or did something else, because that's just the kind of person he was. But I wouldn't have survived without T-Bone.
So T-Bone's kind of the mascot
Yes.
of All Truckers Together Against Child Abuse. What are some things that that people can do? I mean, $25 a year, that's I feel like that's a bare minimum. What are some other things that people can do to help get involved, to help this foundation, help the group? I mean, do you host any events? Are you planning anything like that? I mean,
we will
auctions
eventually. This COVID-19's kind of shut down our plans this year. We're going to be at the truck show September the 18th and 19th in Tonkawa, Oklahoma, at Wilkins Truck Accessories up there, and we're going to unveil a new little T600 Kenworth go-kart with a trailer on it with Attica on it. So it'll be at that truck show. In fact, Sean Young works for me. His son Brenton will be driving it.
Very cool. So you've got a board of people.
Yes.
With Attica. Tell me about the people that are a part of your board, and tell me what the role of the board is.
Well, the role of the board, and again, we've had trouble having meetings because of the COVID-19, but the role is for their input to help us try to grow and figure out what to do. I mean, we've got the state labor commissioner on our board, Leslie Osborne. She's a wonderful woman. We did have the Canadian County Sheriff, but he got so busy he couldn't make it. But we've got people young. We've got some young people in their 20s. We've got people up their 50s. My cousin lives in Ada. He's on it. My mother, I call her my mother. She's actually my aunt, but she's the closest thing I had to a mother. She's a minister in Elk City, and she has a church out there. Her and her husband are our board members. I mean, we have a lot of good people.
And that's what it takes. It takes a lot of good people, not just in the forefront, but behind the scenes to really help you. You're kind of the face of Attica, but there's a lot of people behind the scenes that help raise you up and help provide the information that you may need, or the support that you need down the road, because this isn't an easy task.
No, it isn't. And my wife's a big supporter of what I do. In fact, she was with me in 2014. We went to every county in Oklahoma to raise awareness. And we're doing all kinds of things, and she gets all our printing done for us. And I'll give you an example. Four State Trucks in Joplin, Missouri, they say they ship out about 600 shipments a day. They put an Attica card in every shipment they ship out. We got people doing that. Bosselman's truck stops and truck centers, they have 46 of them in 23 states. They're putting our cards in all of their locations. So we're starting to get the word out there. We're looking for more unity from racing and trucking to get the word out there all across the nation, because it's going to take a national effort to put these billboards up. And someday I'm going to have a billboard in Times Square.
That's your goal.
That's my goal.
Mark your words right now, and you set your mind to something, it's going to happen.
Yes, it will happen.
So people can learn more by going to Attica.org.
Yes.
That's ATTACA.org.
Yes.
They can go on your Facebook page. I know you guys do a lot of stuff with social media, videos and things like that on Facebook.
Right.
It's all Truckers Together Against Child Abuse. You can see it here on the screen again. T-Bone looking good, man. That's a good-looking mascot right there.
Yeah, that's basically, he was kind of a Rottweiler mix with something else,
Yeah.
And the two dogs I have today are about that same size. They're Shar-Peis, but I remember at one point in my life, our dog died, and my wife said, "We're not getting any more." And I said, "I'll help you pack." And she said, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "I can't live without a dog. I'm sorry. Let me apologize now, but I have to have a dog."
Gotta have a dog.
Gotta have a dog.
What has been, I mean, I just want to keep on going here. I don't want to stop. What was one moment that you can remember when you feel like the aha moment, that moment where you either see a child that you've helped, or you see the look on a kid's face whenever you pull up with the big semi and their eyes light up? What's one moment where you just realize that I am doing the right thing?
Well, I think every day I get up, I'm doing the right thing. But I've taken that truck to schools, to daycares and places like that, and it's always just blesses my heart to see those kids' reaction to it. I mean, they just love it. And so taking that thing around and letting kids get involved in it and see it, getting my grandson Flyer to make a video, that kind of stuff really makes me feel good. And we have a wooden statue of T-Bone, and he's in that video with me and Flyer.
That's pretty neat. That's just outstanding. In closing, is there anything that you feel like we haven't discussed or hasn't been said that would be a deal that would seal the deal for people to click on the website right now, take that challenge of $25 a year, or they can even do a one-time donation, right?
Sure.
It's not. You don't have to do $25. You can do $30 a month.
Continue donation, whatever you want to do. We're open for anything. We'll work with anybody to get enough funds to get this thing going.
Every little bit helps.
Every little bit helps. And always remember this, there's kids out there hurting every day. And I saw on the TV recently that more kids are taken to the streets now because they can't stay at home and be abused. That's how bad it is. We need to rethink what we're doing. We need to go back to these parents and say, if you need help, this is how to get it. Don't beat your kids up.
Yeah. We need to get back to the basics.
We need to get back to the
Quit
basics.
overthinking things. Get back to the basics.
Right.
Let's save our kids today so our tomorrow can be a lot better.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Haas Talks. This has been Rodney Timms. Joined today, it's Attica.org.
Introducing the Performance Electronics Wideband O2 sensor with Bluetooth. With just 3 wires, installation couldn't be easier. Quickly connect your smartphone to our simple app to monitor your engine's air-fuel ratio in real time without gauges. The PE Wideband O2 sensor is just one of many performance electronics products that can add brains and brawn to your next high-performance project. Find them all at pe-ltd.com.